Just the fact that there are thousands of ways to pay this expense and it costs us a huge sum of money is what's wrong. If we admit the need and duty, and we could go about the business of taking care of the problem in an orderly and efficient and less costly and more honorable manner, it would be taken care of. It's like retirement recognizes a need, and retirement's taken care of in an efficient manner, and the administration cost is in the under 10%. It's like way, maybe, I don't know what it is, but I know it's under 10% for Social Security. So we're paying these people to get the money to the people that are retired, and it's not costing us very much money. Now, what about the rest of them? Get rid of these people that we're paying so much for. We get people that are investigating instead of sitting in their office. And we have people that are on the internet or on the telephone and taking the information and sending out the checks. Changes everything. So they go on and say we have to take care of our helpless and our sick and the retired, and we must do it in an acceptable manner. We have to offer those who can't work a chance to do so honorably. We can't afford to leave people uneducated if they want to learn. We have to have a minimum level of existence, being at welfare or working. If you're working, a minimum level of existence. What are we saying? This country must guarantee a minimum level of existence for every person who can't work. This country must guarantee a minimum level of pay for anyone who works a minimum number of hours. That pay must be equal to a minimum level of cost for food, clothing, transportation, shelter, and the normal miscellaneous expenses encountered by a family. The minimum level of pay is for one person, not both spouses. The medical benefits must also be given free and at a minimum level. Education benefits must be given all free also, and free to the extent that if a person can maintain the level of learning required. In other words, you're not going to just get a free ride for the rest of your life because you're educating yourself. You have to have a goal, thing you're educating yourself to be able to do, and you have to be making progress. We can teach you up to your ability to learn, they say, but we can't make you smarter. And no matter what the do-gooders tell you, never lower the requirements of any education or job to meet some quota or other requirement. Educate more, give more time, sure. Lower the requirements, never. We do not want a lifetime student either. Choose a job, a training that will, and the training that will do whatever it is that your job that you've chosen, and you get it free. Get more education because you found a better job to do, but go to school just so that you do not have to work is not what we're suggesting. And you know the difference. I mean, now you've got congressmen and senators, and they're your congressmen and senators, and they make the laws that will eliminate the full-time student that isn't going to be productive in any way. So that isn't that hard to figure out. So now we come to labor again. We would take labor out of the marketplace, at least the lower part of it. How do we ever allow man's labor to be placed in the free enterprise system? Man isn't a machine. Man isn't just a warm body that works. All of this working and effort is for the man's progress and a better life, isn't it? Everything that we're talking about here is to benefit the common man, the one that never gets anything, the one that pays for everything but never gets anything. Then how can you put his labor on the economic market? How can anyone believe that a laborer's labor is worth $8.25 an hour and a lawyer's labor is worth $200 an hour? And they say, we understand that the lawyer has overhead of an office and help. Still, in the end result is that the end result is that the lawyer is busy trying to find a way to invest his money, and the laborer is trying to find a way to eat. We would change that. They would change that. Anyone who wants to work will have a job. That job will have a minimum number of hours a week. That minimum number of hours a week will pay for a minimum level of existence. From that base on, all labor can then be placed in the open market. What did they say? They said if you're willing to work in 40 hours or 30 hours or whatever it takes, and you're willing to do what it is that needs to be done, and you can have unions watching out for people that try to get more done than a human can do, and, slave labor. You're doing, say, 40 hours a week or 30 hours a week, and it's routine labor that you're doing. When you do that, you get paid at the end of that week a minimum level of money that equals the minimum level of existence that we've laid out in our legal laws for the minimum level of existence that we can afford our citizens. And if a person can't work for any reason, and that can be verified, he or she will receive the minimum level until he or she can work again. Unless that can be, if it can be verified, you heard. So, I got a bad back doesn't work unless you can verify you got a bad back, and you can, and in this day and age, you can find out these things and put an end to the wealthy people's complaint that these people do nothing and they could, and when you get down to it, check it out. We have investigators. If you're out lifting weights and playing in the mud and building your house and roofing and so on and so forth, and you tell us you got a bad back and can't work, the investigator take one look at you and say, no, I don't think so. And it's a valid complaint. For the wealthy, it's a valid complaint. You take my money away from me and give it to somebody who's conning you. That's valid, They're not going to point at the wealthy, and I'm not going to point at the wealthy and tell them they're bad and everybody else is good. They have valid points. If you're willing to work 50, 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week, and you'll start making money, you'll never get anywhere near the $1 million a year unless you're overcharging. You'll never get to the $400,000 a year unless you're overcharging. But you might get to the $400,000, and the average person might be making $30 an hour. You understand? $30, $10 an hour, or $15 an hour. But, those things will change. So the wealthy still. So have they restricted and beat the wealthy up? No. You're never going to get there. So, and if you are getting there, you're stealing from the poor. That's all. You're stealing millions of loaves of bread. And you need to go to jail for that. Or you need to pay it back. They didn't even send you to jail. They just took your money away. They didn't send you to jail. They took the money that you overcharged away from you. Now, we could have said send you to jail for stealing from the poor, but we didn't say that. Because the wealthy, they're always, everybody likes them, and they've been advertised to be, they're okay. Well, they aren't okay. They're rotten people. They steal from families that can't even feed their kids. And that's disgusting. And we change it, and we have changed it. So they go on and they say that that the people that can't work will get them a minimum level of pay, and the people that can work will get a minimum level of pay, and that means that they'll be able to have the food and place to live in the car and so on and so forth. And they say not a perfect home or a new car, just a home that can be lived in, and a car with enough dependability to get to work and back every day, a minimum level of existence. The job will come from the private sector, and the private sector will have to pay a minimum wage, or the job will come from the government, and the government will have to pay a minimum wage. The point is there won't be any welfare for those who can work anymore. There will be minimum pay given to all those who are unable to work, and a minimum wage for those who do work. Those who are unable to work will be tested, if you will, and be researched, and they are definitely unable to work. So ends the discussion. So ends the cry for, justice. And they say we again go for choices rather than restrictions. If a person's ill or handicapped, he or she has generated that condition for a lesson, or other reasons. No, you can't. We can't go into that. That's part of book 1, 2, and 3. They said if a person is ill or handicapped, he or she has generated that condition for a lesson or other reasons. You must give them that choice and still allow them to live. Then they say what we don't have to do is support them well. A minimum level of existence is not comfortable but tolerable. Used clothes, old refrigerator, used car, shelter, not a beautiful home, edible and nutritious food, but not necessarily tasty food. That's a minimum level of existence. If a person is able to work, then we will furnish him or her with a minimum level job with minimum level pay. And for a family, that's the one person. The other person is raising children, and that person is working, whether you like it or not, and probably working at a more relevant job than the other person. So the child raiser comes up. The child raiser is creating wealth. The person that's pumping gas is not creating wealth. You understand what they're saying? You need to focus on who's doing you the favor and pay them and support them. And, what we basically are doing is we're taking one of the persons of the family out of the system so that nobody's raising the child. And so the child is not creative and no longer a resource, and they end up to be a drug addict or whatever. It's just stupid. We pay for our prisoners $30,000 to $40,000 a year, and then we don't pay for our children. We don't. It's just pretty strange. We need to look and see who's important, and then we need to support them. Children are extremely important. We need to support them. They're 1/3 of the natural resources that makes our country wealthy. So just from an economic point of view, why aren't we supporting our children and helping them become, something that will be productive? So then they say, no, you've got these people and they have a minimum level workers, and from that level on, a man or woman may choose to go into the marketplace and earn even more by their abilities, their wisdom, their labor, or education, or whatever. And they say that's fine. The free enterprise system works, and those who want to play that game may. What did they say? They said if you get past a certain level, basically you go in and say you want to hire me. And they say, yeah, I want to hire you. And you say, okay, it's $40 an hour. And they say, oh, man, why? And they say, because there's nobody else that can do what I can do. See what I'm saying? You've made yourself valuable. And you can negotiate with your employer and get more money. And have they stopped that? Oh, no. No, you can make $400,000 if you can get it. You can make $1 million if you get it, and you're going to have a good chunk of money. So have at it, But let's get the laborer that's down there on the lower level living wage and not have to go through all. Let's get rid of the drama. Let's get rid of all the baloney. We're going to feed these people, and they're going to have houses, and they're going to have cars, and that's the way it should be. And not two people in the family working, just one. And if you and maybe the government saying we need these children to be educated right from the get-go, and so we need the mothers or fathers at home. We need one of the two at home, and we'll pay for that. How are you going to do it? Let your congressmen and senators figure it out. The concept is that you need to see what it is that's important. Children are important. We'll earn all kinds of money if we will take a look at our children and do something for them, not just ignore them. So they go on and say we'd also give a minimum level of health care with education. with education and prevention as the focus, and the health industry has changed considerably because the People's Trust News are investigating the entire game that they play. The pills that you take and the who heals, what kind of operations are you getting, are they proper, appropriate? You have the American Medical Association, which doesn't even have very many doctors on the board. They have people that are worried about keeping the games properly played. Get rid of them. Get rid of them and get what it is that you want. You're paying for it. You're paying for it no matter what it is, so get what you want, finally. Just as in the chapter on law, we would change the focus from catching and punishing a criminal to preventing a crime, so we would change the health care from masking the symptoms, hiding the symptoms, to supporting and boosting the immune system. Before the problem occurs, we can change those negative things that cause the problem. And that, what did they say? They said, we're going to change the focus. We're going to keep you healthy, not hide what you have. Got a headache. Oh, take a pill. Well, okay, I don't have a headache anymore. Okay, we did it. No, you didn't do what you need to do. Why do they have a headache? We need to know why and get rid of that problem. Not with a pill, but with, you might take the pill too. It's a choice. You have these workers and they're going to take a pill if that's what they got to do because they don't want to eat properly. That's the choice. Okay, so, what the heck? So you have the information that a person can use to be out that he wants to be, and you'll have the people that make pills so that you don't feel the bad parts of your health if you've chosen to go that direction. They also say that they'll pay those who actually heal after an illness or damage is done to those people that actually can heal. So they say, just like they say all the time, not a paper, not a degree. We want to know with research who's healing. And why do they say that? They say that because very often it isn't the doctor, it's the nurse. Do we pay the nurse to heal? No. But does the nurse heal? Yes. And can we prove it? You bet. And, we have the ability with our computers and information and research to get rid of the doctors that can't do what they, get rid of the doctors that people are dying from. Bring the doctors in that people are living from. Bring the nurses in that are healing. Bring the cures that are cures. We got the ability to do the research. You find out that the hospital in Georgia has the best record for healing, and everybody's going to go there. Well, that isn't going to work, so they're going to teach what they're doing in Georgia to everybody else in the country. That we get what we want instead of we have to take what you wealthy people give us. We have to take the stuff on TV you give us, even though we're paying for it. It's insane. You got the money and you're paying for it. You should be able to say, I don't want those channels, I want these channels. That's the way it's gonna be. As you begin to realize that you're the person paying, and they can't tell you what they're not going to be walking around telling you, oh, you have to do this and you have to do that. You don't. You just say, nope, don't have to do that. This is what we want, and now it's time that we get it. So, gone is the AMA, and gone are the games that they play. And our investigators will find the unbiased truth about health and healing and how it is done. The gains of the drug companies, the AMA, and many doctors will come to an end with this investigation, and we will save billions, if not trillions, and believe me, it'll be trillions of dollars. Is that worth your $1 a week at the grocery store for People's Trust News? Of course. If you, you're looking at trillions of dollars you're saving, that's not the point. It's $40 in your pocket. You understand? It isn't trillions of dollars out there somewhere that somebody else gets. It's $40, $50 in your pocket a week, back in your pocket. So when you begin to understand that, it's like, just using the television as an example, you have these choices of channels that you get, and you say, I only want these 7 channels, and that's all I want. Okay, you only pay for them. Now you're not paying $130, you're paying $20, and you're getting the channels you want because you're paying for all of that stuff out of your pocket anyway. And you're just saying, if I got to pay for it, this is what I want. I don't want these other things. That's the way the whole system in Book 4, that's what they're doing. They're trying to get you to understand that you pay for it all anyway. Why don't you tell them what you want and get it? You know, because the game players are advertising and they've got you twisted around their little finger. And that comes to an end as you begin to see what's going on. When you see that a doctor is not saving people, they're actually dying right and left because he's incompetent, and the statistics show it, and the statistics come from your dollar a week at the grocery store, you're saying, hey, why didn't we do this a long time ago? What's wrong with us? And what's wrong with you is advertising works, and you aren't advertising. You haven't been advertising. So the advertisers are throwing the money in their pocket, hand over fist, and the big smile on their face, and they're working to get you into civil war so they can get the population down. So as you begin to understand that, as you begin to see it as basics, it's like the guy that's making, $2 million in the stock market, being a buyer and seller, you look at him and say, what are you doing that's productive? What are you producing? You're not producing, you're not doing anything productive, you're just transferring wealth. So why are we paying you so much? That's out. You either do it by reducing the income or by law. You can't charge that kind of money for the nothing that you're doing. So they say, how are we going to pay for all these new things? And what they say all the time is, you're paying for it now. And you're paying so much more because it's segmented, and you're not looking at it and saying, look, we pay for it now, and we don't need all these different things. We need one thing. Welfare costs too much to administer. The intelligence games players are all over the place in welfare. From an economic point of view, we pay more to get the money to the individual than the individual gets. Do your research. It costs you more in the bureaucracy to get the money to the individual than the individual gets. And that money that you're paying is for people that aren't doing anything. They aren't out investigating. They're just sitting in their office putting down those stupid, non-working welfare slobby bums. And that's the way they see it. Yet they're getting 4, 5, 6 times as much money, and they're not doing anything either. But they dress nice, and they, go to the office, and they got a nice car. And as you begin to see. So they say now in the new system, if the doctor says you're sick or handicapped and can't work, you get the money just by applying. Those who are in charge of the administration will be out in the field physically investigating the fact. If a doctor is wrong too many times, he will be charged under the criminal section of the law and dealt with in that manner. If an individual is found to be fraudulent, he or she will find himself in the same place. A few convicted cases and there will be little abuse. Compare that with now. Compare that with what the wealthy see, like they're complaining all the time that they're being conned. They're the ones that have the money, and you're taking the money away from them so you can give it to these people that are conning you. No, that's valid. Whether you like it or not, it's valid. And, you have to take care of that side too. So, put it into these people that are sitting in the office, they're out there investigating, they're out there looking. That's their job. They they go out there and see what the guy's doing, what the woman's doing. Are they really unable to work? And it doesn't take anything to find out. It just takes you to go out there and see. Are you intruding on a person's, the thing that they're so afraid of? Are you going to find out? Yes, Let me tell you what you're afraid of. You're afraid they're gonna find out that you're conning them. Anybody else, everybody else. I've talked to people who have bad backs, and I have heard the wealthy people in the county say, "Well, that was good for nothing, and they don't want to work." And well, I knew a couple of them, and I knew, their situation, and have had a bad back myself, and I said, look, tell me, I'm not on their side. Tell me about it. And they say, listen, I'd work 60 hours a week if I didn't have a bad back. I'd gladly work 60 hours a week and make a regular wage if I didn't have a bad back. And having had one myself, even though I kept working, I know exactly what they're saying, because mine wasn't so bad that I couldn't work. But, the wealthy have a point. Just because they have made the money doesn't mean you should take it away from them and give it away to people that don't deserve it. So they say a minimum level of existence if you're willing to work. A minimum level of existence if you're willing to raise children. That's work. If you're not willing to work, then they say you don't get anything, including you don't go live with a woman who has children and is getting a certain amount of money for raising children. If you aren't willing to work, the law will get you and tell you, no, you can't do that. You can't take the food out of the children's mouth because you don't want to work. You will work, or you'll starve. And that's, so that's the other side of the coin, and that's what everybody kind of wants. So what about these people that are in government jobs? The projects that either help business to better perform their tasks or projects that improve this country's natural resources, those are the people we want. They can fix roads, paint bridges, clean this country, to name a few tasks. They will help business. They can also build parks and trails and wilderness places. What are they talking about? They're talking about anybody who doesn't have a job, and this is where the unions will be pushed out of the business of what they do, which is, are we against labor unions? Absolutely not. Labor unions saved many children from slavery and many laborers from slavery. And did they do the job? Absolutely. What did they do wrong? They combined all the laborers and made them one person and made that person unavailable for work, so that the industry had to pay more. Well, the government in the new system says you will get a living wage. That's the first thing. If you're willing to work the minimum level of work, the minimum amount of labor, and the minimum hours of labor, and you do the things that are required, you'll get paid a minimum amount of money so you can live. You'll have a car, you got a house, you got so on and so forth. That's what you'll have. And if you're willing to work, you'll get that. And then if you choose not to work, then you choose not to get paid, and you choose not to have somebody else support you, because the jobs will be there, and the union will not be stopping you. They say, well, you can't have a government giving money out for road work because we got people that are doing road work and you're taking that work away from them. We are going to have work for everybody. We're going to have jobs for everybody. That's it. We don't need a union to stop that. We don't need a union to group all of them together and increase the price. We need to have a minimum level that the government says you have to pay if you want somebody to work. Okay, so now you got a minimum level, and you're surviving, and you're doing that. That's covered. Then, if you want to go on the economic market and determine that you're worth more, go ahead. If you've done something that caused you to be worth more to an industry, good. That's good, and you should be paid more. Nobody's going to complain about that. Of course, if you get to the point where you're way overcharged, we'll take your money away. But up to that point, go ahead. Make your money, do your thing. It's like we keep everything the way it is, but we keep the insanity out of it. So then they go back and they say, now take a good look at who it is that makes this country wealthier. You can't just say those are the most important people because there are other people that are important. But you can say that we're not looking at them and we're not focusing on them and we're not making their job easier. You know, what would happen if you decided to the people that make our country wealthier to help them? To help them, you know, everybody is in there trying to help these people make more money. What happens? Nothing other than the fact that you become wealthier. You know, it's like, I'm not going to work any harder than I'm working now because the rich guy over there gets all my money. No, the whole country's wealthier if the country's wealthier. So they've reviewed it and they said this is what they're trying to tell you. When we get rid of the advertising and we get rid of the people that steal from you and overcharge from you, the slavery that you're dealing with comes to an end. And so the next step they're going to go to is the raising of children and whether that's work or not. And so that's what we'll be looking at next.